So, four-handed here, and a quick look at the stacks would say that villain one is a bit short here, only 90 cents. Once I say there's no point, the chances are you might hit a really good hand, and you'll only have 90 cents to play with. So do look at adding chips. If you're not doing the automatic rebuy, do the add chips in the top right-hand corner. Anyway, I've got 7-4, so that's an easy fold for me. And the pair of tens on the button. Now, I would be raising with this every time. I would make it 6 cents, probably 5 or 6, something like that. I make it 4. Well, as I say, you're not going to get any big blind to fold practically with 4 cents raise, and probably no small blind in our game. So you've got to charge people. You want to play these tens against one player, not against two players. So make it 6, I would. And now you get raised with a pair of queens, which is perfectly good. In fact, but the problem with it is not big enough raise. You're out of position. You're in the small blind. And so when he bets 4 here, I probably would be making this 16. I want to get the big blind out at least. And I really don't mind just taking it down there and then. Don't always think when you get these good hands that you have to win big pots with them. Sometimes they are very good at just picking up safe pots. And if you do win 2 big blinds here and a big blind here and your own small blind that you put in, that's 3.5 big blinds. That's pretty good in just one hand. So, but I make it 6, and you really aren't going to get this guy to fold. I know you might say, well, I'm trying to keep him in. Fair enough. But you want to charge him more to keep him in. After all, he raised, so you know he's got some kind of hand, and you know he's not going to fold. He's probably not going to fold to 8 cents or even 12 cents. And 16, yeah, he may do. He may realize he's up against a big hand and just fold, and that's fine. Well, villain 4 does get out, and villain 2 decides to re-raise. Well, I certainly wouldn't re-raise here. This is 4-bet rather. There's no point. This does not achieve anything in my view. Another 2 cents. You're not going to get suddenly villain 1 think, oh, I must be beaten here for 2 cents more. I can't put any more in. I'm going to fold. So you are better off, as you are in position, just calling and seeing a flop. And villain 1 just calls. Well, the flop is good for both hands, but obviously for the queens, it's better. So what should the queens do here? Well, given the aggression from villain 2, who made these small raise and re-raise, maybe the right idea is to check, because you can almost bank on him betting. With a low flop like that and only 83 cents behind, my main aim here is to get all this money in. I don't mind whether it goes in the flop, turn or river, but I've got to get this all in. It's also, there's no flush draws out there at all, and no real straight possibilities. Well, there's no straight, I suppose. So there is an argument for checking here and then raising all in or something like that. But let's see what he does. He bets straight out. Yeah, and he bets full pot. So I guess that's fair enough, given the sort of strange line that the button took. You think he's probably not going to fold here, but you have kind of given away the strength of your hand. But the pair of tens is an overpair to the board, and it shouldn't go anywhere, and we should probably call this, which I do. Now the king comes, which is obviously throws up other possibilities that might be beating both hands. And so what should villain 1 do? Well, villain 1, a pot-sized bet will almost put him all in here, and that is a possibility, but probably could carry on betting again here. And with a view, if you bet half of this amount, 33 or something, you know you'll get the rest in on the river. There's so little money left here that it almost doesn't matter what you bet. So they just check. And I suppose that tells the button here that villain 1 cannot beat a king. So you are kind of defining your range here, and in a way, if villain 2 was being very, very aggressive here and decided to bet 66 cents to put this guy all in, then maybe villain 1 would have real problems calling that. But that really is the decision now for villain 2. If you're going to bet 66 and put the pressure on, and that's what you can do in No Limit Hold'em if you're bold enough. And obviously villain 2's been doing quite well and they've doubled their money, but this would be a very strong play against a pair of queens, and would say basically I had ace king at the start, or yeah, I had ace king at the start, and that's my king has come in, and he just checks. Well, now that tells, both players know neither of them have a king, because they surely would have bet it there. And the river comes with another king, which effectively doesn't change anything, but now both sides know that the other doesn't have a king. And obviously with 2 kings, it is even less likely for them to have a king. So now villain 1, I think, probably should just shove, because he knows that he's probably got the nuts here, because certainly villain 2 doesn't have a pair of aces. So I think you probably bet 66 here. But he checks. Now villain 2 should take this opportunity now just to check, given all that's gone on and the strong line that villain 1 took on the flop. It should be best just to check. But instead they bet half pot, which I think is just overplaying the hand at the moment. Sometimes you have to ask yourself, who is going to call me that can beat me? Well, I guess you don't think a king. Sorry, who's going to call me that I can beat? Well, I can't beat a king. I can't beat queens or jacks. I can beat somebody with a 9. And to be honest, that's probably not realistic, that villain 1 has had a pair of 9s from the start. Sorry, a 9 in his hand, ace 9 or something like that. Oh, it's possible, I suppose. But I think this is overplaying the hand. And then villain 1 wakes up with a raise. Well, look, if you are going to wake up with a raise at this point, then make sure you shove everything in 66, because it's going to be very hard for villain 2 to fold for an additional 14 cents. And he calls. No, he re-raises. Well, he makes sure to try and get this. So this is sort of, I think this is committing suicide here. Every chip is, every cent is worth something in our game. And I think probably when you get raised on the river and you've only got a pair of 10s, you have to think you're beaten, in which case you probably have to throw your hand away. Even though you've put all that money in, you have to forget about it. It's not yours. It belongs to the pot. And if you must look at what the extra is that you're putting in and whether you have any chance of winning. And I think the 10s didn't really have any chance of winning there. And it's called by villain 1, who probably wished he had a bit more money to start with, because he would have made some more. Anyway, and villain 1 wins a nice pot. Notice he doesn't win 184 because the rake is 6 cents on that pot. So that's what PokerStars get for managing our game. Anyway, let's